Artist Bisa Butler has been called a modern-day griot, but instead of using words to tell stories, she uses stitches and cloth. Her quilts have graced the covers of magazines, and she created the striking illustration for the soon-to-be-released book Unbound, the memoir of activist and Me Too movement founder Tarana Burke. Nancy Chen spoke to Butler about creating a new narrative using fabric.
Her vividly detailed portraits often reimagine the lives of those they portray. And now Bisa Butler's life itself is launching in a new direction.
Seeing my artwork at home and in my studio is one thing, but seeing it in this location is just completely mind-blowing.
Just 4 years past her career as a high school art teacher, Butler has unveiled her first show at a major museum. And it's at one of the world's most renowned, the Art Institute of Chicago.
How would you describe your art?
When I first started making quilts, they were not considered fine art. They were considered craft. I call my work now portrait quilts.
Every fiber of her life-size portraits is imbued with meaning, from patterned African fabrics themselves to how they're patched together.
I think that historically, quilt work, craft work has been marginalized because it was the work of women, and it was the work of people of color. It was considered like a domestic labor.
Inspired by her mother's and grandmother's dressmaking, Butler celebrates the craft, as well as the beauty and pride of the Black lives they depict.
I love the idea that the images that I'm making are looking back out at me. So there's like a intimacy there, and it's a confrontation too. So I like the idea that there's this dialogue between the subjects and the observers.
A conversation resurrecting stories from the African diaspora, often forgotten or dismissed. Her subjects, real-life figures.
When I find photos online or in the databases of Black people who are unnamed and unknown, I feel like I owe it to them to try to sort of ascertain what was their identity.
The portraits range from those whose stories are mysterious to central figures in American history. Butler transforms a sepia tone image of Harriet Tubman to this, a kaleidoscope of vibrant tones. It's on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture.
What role does color play in all of this? Your work is so vibrant and so bright.
Color is everything to me. I was born in the 70s, so talk about color.
A lot of Technicolor.
Technicolor. Turn up the dial on all of the colors, and then you've got the 70s palette. I use the color as a way to communicate. If I think that somebody seems to be more cool, more somber, I might use shades of blues and purples. If somebody appears to be like a leader or they appear to be more forceful, I'm going to use more intense colors.
Butler brings her work to life at her home in New Jersey.
This is where the magic happens, and we're in the dining room in your house. This is your studio.
This is my studio. I mean, they say the kitchen is the heart of the home. Basically, the kitchen is the only part of the home that my family has access to.
Each figure takes about 6 weeks to craft. One of Butler's most recent works, created over 7 months, is now featured at the Newark Museum of Art.
So you're about to see the biggest piece that I've ever made, the piece that took the longest, and this is my baby.
This is stunning.
The Warmth of Other Suns depicts Black families migrating to the North in search of a better life. But Butler also takes liberties in taking care of her subjects.
If you look at the original, he doesn't have shoes.
But you gave him shoes.
People wanted to travel in their very best. So if he didn't have shoes, it's because they couldn't afford them. And that's something that I'd like to give back.
The portraits capture the stories of who people are and of who they want to be.
I'm surprised by how much emotion this evokes in me. Did you want people to have that reaction when they first see your work?
I actually didn't plan on that, but I think that the nature of making quilts, you have this blanket-like object on you all the time. Each bit of fabric I've touched and stitched on, so the emotions from me are going into the quilt itself.
That purposeful intent is now focused on her next project for the Smithsonian, the Harlem Hellfighters, who helped the United States win World War I.
It's going to feature 9 soldiers whose ages range from 19 years old to about 33, and they all fought in an all-black segregated unit.
Figures from the past, timeless, as they come back to life in Butler's hands, celebrated and honored across different generations and backgrounds.
I want people to be able to look at my work and see the humanity in it. And let's say for people who are not Black, to understand that we are all human beings and we have the same wants and desires, loves and fears. And for Black people, I want them to see themselves and realize that I recognize who you are and we are the same.
For CBS This Morning Saturday, Nancy Chen, Chicago.
Powerful. Well, Bisa Butler's exhibit at the Chicago Art Institute is open through Monday. This is her book of portraits. It's available through the Chicago Art Institute's museum shop online. But you venture through this, and it's just an explosion of color and insight and tales of what she's been through in the process of making these beautiful pieces. And I just love what she says. You know, this is her moment to shine a light on people that we still have to keep talking about. These are people. These are human beings, and they have lives just like everybody else.
I love when Nancy asks, what role does color play in all this? And Bisa says, color's everything to me.
Yeah.
And just the vividness of the colors in all of these pictures.
Absolutely beautiful, stunning, and she looked like you had said this, it looked like she could have been literally in her own work, the way she was adorned, yeah.